family. This is M. Kuemzi, and I'm here with my brother, Saba Olatunji and Wamba, and we're excited to introduce our second printing and our new revised edition of Raising Awareness, Past, Present, and Future. My brother, Saba, you want to give us a little summary about what the new revision is?
Yes, the revision has now it has 7 chapters instead of 5 as we had in the first book. Okay. This book is the sounding of the trumpet for the ears of the global Black community. This book is for Black men, women, and children of all ages. Through this work, we connect the chains of the past, how it shows itself in the present, and solutions to be applied to our collective future. We reconnect the link to the youth and the elders, and both to the ancestors. This book is designed with the intent to have Black people reflect, refocus, reaffirm how we engage in all pillars of culture, socio-politics, religion, education, entertainment, economics, and ethics. This book it discusses the importance of regaining our collective and individual moral compass to apply honesty, integrity, and good character to everything we do.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Very well done. And just a little correction. We actually have 9 chapters, bro.
It was 9. I'm sorry.
We actually have 9 chapters. We added 2 chapters to this new printing.
Right.
And my additional chapter would be family history, family archives. And obviously everybody would know how important that is. And what is your chapter, bro?
My other chapter is called How to Defend Oneself from Being Classified as Anti-Semitic.
Yes. And of course, with those 2 new chapters in the book, we cleaned up some of the, some of the visual way that the book looks. It's more professionally done. We have our footnotes on the pages now, as opposed to, in both places, on the pages and at the end of the chapters. So I think this is a pretty well documented and very well done production. Revised edition. I was showing you the guys the copy of the front page here. I'm always going backwards when it's in camera. But this is a new revised edition, Raising Awareness, Past. Same cover. You just see new revised edition at the top. Now the old book, the first printing is not available now. The only way that you get the first book, we're going to end up donating the first printing to, maybe to some, educational groups and stuff like that. If they want to teach their children. It's still a very good vehicle for that. And if you want to get the book, we'll give it to you obviously at a discount. Just contact inbox Olatunji and Wamba, inbox me, and we'll get the first printing to you at a deeply discounted price. We have no problem with that. We got some copies left. I would say maybe 50 to 60 copies of that.
Yeah,
we can get those out to you. The new revised edition is on Amazon. And where is the copies of the book on your website, brother?
Yes. You can go to myshopify.com collections/all.
Okay, they can find both your books there, right? Both our books.
Both books are there.
Right. So the new revised edition is there on your website, and your book.
An African-centered response to the LGBTQIA organizations and their agenda, the conversation no one wants to have.
Right.
So you have an opportunity to purchase both books at myshopify.com /collections/all.
That's very good. And also, again, you can still go to Amazon and buy the Raising Awareness, Past, Present, and Future revised edition there as well. But, we wanted to take a minute to talk about how we got to this point anyway. As now that we're trying to do scholarly work, we don't hear people talk about the ancestor scholars who laid the foundation for all that we all do. and building on top of their work. And we do know about John G. Jackson. We don't hardly see enough credit going to him. And me and my brother Dunjee were talking about this before we started the video. There's a brother named Hubert Henry Harrison. John G. Jackson lovingly called him the Black Socrates. Then, of course, we have J.A. Rogers, a very notable brother, Dr. Willis Nathaniel Huggins, who has several productions and books that he's written. And then you have, and Olatunji turned me on to this brother, Edward Wilmot Blyden. Can you give me a little information about Edward Wilmot Blyden, brother?
Edward Wilmot Blyden. He was a historian. He was born in, I believe, Barbados, one of the Caribbean islands. I can't remember which one right now. And he came here to the States around 1950, and it was so rough he just left. There's a society called the American Colonization Society. It was created by some European, some Caucasian, whereby they were instrumental in the Back to Africa movement with free Africans who had been enslaved, going back to Liberia. And so he wound up going over to Liberia for quite a long time. He came back here briefly and then went back again. He's a good historian. I would advise anybody to look him up and look up his works. I have one of his works in my library right now. I haven't read it in years. I probably need to sit down and read it again. Last time I read it was probably in the late 1970s or the early 80s. And so, but it's well worth the time to read, even though you might have some issues with some things that he might say.
Right.
So he's a pioneer. And I think oftentimes when we look at the pioneers, we expect the pioneers to be perfect, but we have to remember that our scholars who laid the groundwork, they were working with nothing.
Nothing.
They started with nothing. It's kind of like, let me just using a music analogy. It's like looking at Louis Armstrong. He started with nothing, and then he creates this great music. Or Charlie Parker started with what he had. You know, he listened to some stuff that was earlier, then he created a whole new way and approach to things.
Yep.
And so these historians were the first ones who got out there and started looking, researching, trying to find the answers that the white writers, for the most part, were not telling us.
Yep.
We only had at that point, I think by the turn of the 20th century, there had only been maybe 2 or 3 who wrote anything positive about Black people. You had Count de Volney, who wrote The Ruins of Empires, Gerald Massey, who wrote Genesis, and what's the other book he wrote? Egypt, Light of Worlds. And I think it was Sir Godfrey Huggins.
Yeah.
Anacalyptus, and might be another one. I'm trying to think of, but there were very few that had during that time period. You mean
very few Europeans, right?
Yeah, Europeans.
Okay.
Who wrote positively about African people, and tried to actually tell the truth about what they actually discovered when they went to ancient Kemet.
Right.
When they, and they were the ones who, and it even people might have some problems with Budge and what's his name?
Kurzweil?
No, Sapitri, what's his name? It'll come back to me.
Okay.
But they tried to, what they did was they tried to correct the timeline that was being used by Edward Meyer and Breasted and others.
Right.
And they did not agree with the short chronological timeline, and they had very, very good reasons about that.
Right.
Three of our modern scholars have written extensively about those timelines and why those timelines are incorrect.
Right.
Dr. Charles Finch writes about it in his book, Echoes of the Old Dark Land.
Right.
There's a chapter in there called Egyptian Chronology. And Robin Walker has a wonderful chapter called Egyptian Chronology in his book called We Ruled. And Professor Dakar Ma'at Kilimanjaro wrote a book called Sepet, Kemet African Calendar Modernized. Those three works, if you're trying to understand the correct timelines, paramount to get them.
Yes.
Get those books.
Yeah.
Paramount. They will definitely help you understand why the timeline that the European has been using, 3180 BCE, or the first unification of Kemet, is completely untenable and incorrect.
Yes.
And you could also read as a little snippet in the Book of Histories by Herodotus, and he gives some real important clues about why the timeline that they were using. Yeah. I mean, he doesn't mention the timeline that's incorrect. He just lays out what the Egyptian priests told him about certain things that would, if looking at the timeline correctly, you would understand it. Yeah. I also mentioned a lot of this short and long chronological timeline issue in our book, in the chapter on the chapter entitled "Is Islam an Indigenous African Religion?" And are the original Arabians, African people? And there's when you open up that chapter, there's a brief synopsis of the explanation of the short and long chronological timelines and why the earlier timeline was untenable and that we need to move away from it. And,
I thought that you did an excellent job with that too in that chapter.
Thank you.
You did an excellent job in that. But going back to this brother Edward Wilmot Blyden.
Yeah,
we're talking about the late 20s, early 30s, where all this stuff was going on, man. And there was one story about J.A. Rogers riding, going on, riding as a porter in a train, and then employing a conductor, a white conductor, to go into the libraries of the different cities that they stopped in. He had to pay that European money to go into the library and pull works out the library. So imagine if that brother had a chance to actually go into the library and really pull out what he really wanted, and the kind of research he could have done. You know what I mean? And all of his personal money, finances that he had to use to do his research, and he traveled extensively as well. Nobody knows about the traveling that J.A. Rogers did.
Nope.
And in both Africa and in Europe. It's amazing what that brother did. But anyway, with Edward Blyden, it's important to note that he influenced John G. Jackson, who we want to make sure that he gets special notice today as we talk about him, and made him like the assistant executive director of the Blyden Society. And that was initiated in the Harlem YMCA. And what's important about this story is that our real loved and venerated ancestor, John Henry Clark, as a young man, just happened to be hanging around, in the Blyden Society, as a poet. He was writing poetry. And when he had these conversations with Dr. Blyden and John G. Jackson and others, J.A. Rogers, they say, "Yo, man, you got a talent for history and research and everything else." They recognized it immediately in him. And John Henry Clark said that a number of times, saying that they put me on the right path. If it wasn't for them, he wouldn't have done what he did. So that's why these brothers and these sisters, we talk, Angela Drusilla Houston, is also very important. Make sure we don't want to miss out on her contributions.
Yes, because she's around that same time.
Around that same time, yes. So and there's another female. I didn't write her name down. I was actually going to put these names on the end of our video in the comment section.
Yes.
And I also put their works
Yes.
next to their names. Now, just like you said, Brother Olatunji, these guys were writing this stuff in the 30s, the late 20s, the 30s, throughout the 30s. And we know that the information is not going to be, it's not going to be perfect because they have very, very few resources and access to the information. But what they've done was very, very important. They need to be recognized for that.
They laid the groundwork for others to come and to build on what they did,
right?
And to offer the correction, not to tear them down like we see some of these folks doing today. They never tore any of those scholars down.
No,
they just built on what they did and kept right on rolling and made the argument stronger because these were the pioneers who were saying that ancient Kemet was a Black African civilization,
right?
And that all civilization started in Africa. These were the first African scholars we had who were saying this,
right?
And then you had these other scholars. By the way, the white scholar I was thinking about that wrote positively was Champollion Vijay.
Okay, yeah,
that was the scholar I was thinking of.
Okay,
and so our dilemma is that we have unscrupulous people who, rather than write correctly about what our scholars did, I'm not really sure what their intent is. I just know that it's not good.
No, not at all.
Not good. It's really, really bad, and these folk need to be shunned and avoided at all costs, and not paid any attention to until they start to do the right thing.
Right. Yeah, I think as long as you recognize that you're standing on the shoulders of these great men and women, we wouldn't even be doing what we're doing right now if it wasn't for these guys.
Exactly. And all we're doing is building on what came before. We're not tearing anybody that we are honoring them. We honor them all the time. You mention them all the time. I mention them all the time. I mention how great they are, and I mean it's a who's. Listen, if I started talking about everybody, I'd be here for the next 2 hours.
You're right. You're right about that, man.
A lot of great scholars that we have in our midst, and I think we also have to remember that we're not going to. No one person has all of the answers.
Yep.
If we remember that.
Yep.
And whatever answers that you or I might get, you add that to the mix.
Yep.
And you allow people to assess it. If it's wrong, then you go back and you say, okay, I'm wrong. Let me correct that. There've been some. In fact, that was one of the things that I did when I went back into the raising awareness. I had some things it was good, and it was some things I said, but I felt like I needed to say some things. Some things I said a little differently. Some things I just built on and added more to.
Right.
To make it even fuller, or as we used to say in the music business, make it fatter.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I went back in and added some things that and people, when they read, if they have the first one, when they read this one, they'll see the difference. Yeah,
it's definitely a richer piece, a richer work, but by no means is that first work flawed and to the point where the point where it's going to be thrown in the trash.
Oh, absolutely.
All we did was really just improve on it.
Absolutely.
But there's nothing in there that's going to take you in the wrong way and down the wrong path. It's going to definitely veer you in the right direction. Absolutely. But by all means, you definitely need to have the second new revised edition. By all means, I think it's a fuller experience. When I say the African experience, it gives you a more contextual look at the African experience in our society. It gives you the history, it gives you the past, it gives you what we're going through right now in the present, and also gives you some solutions about what we can look forward to in the future. So, with that, my brother, before we close this up, you want to discuss your very hot book that still continues to be hot, the LGBTQIA.
Yeah. The other book is entitled An African-Centered Response to the LGBTQIA Organizations and Their Agenda. the conversation no one wants to have. This book addresses the many LGBTQI organizations, their agenda. It clearly and plainly defines and confirms the following. Is there an agenda? What is the agenda? Who's behind it? The terms involved, who created them? The culture of the origin of this practice, lifestyle, and behavior. Is it African in origin? Who designated the role for African people in this discussion? This book also provides solutions on how to navigate through the social construct and paradigm, how this behavior affects Black family, and what it means to be African-centered. The book provides documented research from various medical and psychiatric scientific research studies and documents, such as the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, the DSM-5, the National Institutes of Health, the Centers for Disease Control, the American Medical Association, the correct etymological, linguistic, and historical definitions of the many terms they use, quotes from some of the most powerful LGBTQIA organizations about their stated agenda, contains over 12 years of dedicated research, and so much more. This book should be in every Black household and be in every Black library. This book is a monumental effort that can only be fully appreciated once it has been read by the reader.
Ashe, ashe, ashe.
The book again is entitled An African-Centered Response to the LGBTQIA Organizations and Their Agenda, the conversation no one wants to have. And I now have updated that book as well. So we now have an expanded edition of that book. So both books have been added to and or built and improved. So we have two great works that if you're saying you're African-centered, if you say that you love Black people and you want what is in the best interest of Black people, and you want concrete knowledge and information, as well as sources that will send you for other sources, both of these books are the books you should have. You should own both of them in your library, but not just own them, because this is not about just we're trying to sell the books. Yes, sure. We wouldn't try to misguide or mislead anybody into thinking we don't want you to buy the books. We do, but not. We know we're not going to be on the New York Times bestsellers list.
Exactly.
We allow people to buy the book because we know how important the information contained in them is to making us whole again.
Exactly.
And that's what we're trying to do: make us whole, make us African once again.
Exactly. Very well said, my brother. And I do appreciate you, as you always know.
Yes, sir.
Sometimes we talk, a family. If you know some of the conversations that me and my brother get into, sometimes, man, sometimes we be at each other's necks, man. But at the end of the day, it's all about sharpening that steel, man. You know what I mean?
Yes, yes, and, it's all about blood, my brother. It's all about blood. Yes,
hey, and I will say this: 99% of the time, my brother comes out on top. And I'm too damn hard-headed to get it. But he whips me down, takes care of me, though.
That's only because I've been at it a longer time. That's all.
Yeah, man. That's why I love you, man, because you don't mind sharing your knowledge, man, at all.
Absolutely. That's why that saying is so important. In fact, I put it on somebody's post earlier today. Ubuntu.
Yeah.
We are, therefore I am, therefore we are,
Exactly.
And so that's the way I operate in everything that I do. I'm always, wanting the best, and anybody that I see that is misleading our people, I'm not feeling them, and I'm going to call them out.
Yeah.
And so that's what I do. I call people out online. If I meet them in person, I will confront them in person.
Right.
Anybody that knows me knows I don't have any problem doing that. I will confront them and say, look, you need to correct what you're doing wrong, whatever.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that. And you've been consistent that way. But I will add that to anybody who's listening, and I know a lot of people will see this video eventually. I would acknowledge and also confirm that if you make a phone call or hit my brother Olatunji in the inbox, it doesn't matter whether you have a difference of opinion or not. If you want to have a one-on-one conversation or get a full understanding of what Well, he's saying not just him, but me. I mean, there has been a couple of incidents that I've had recently where people have misunderstood what I was trying to say. Mm-hmm. And when I finally had a chance to, to clear it up with them, they said, "Oh, that's what you meant." I said, "Yeah." So you can't assume that you know where our minds are, what we're really feeling, and what we're thinking, unless you actually get it from us directly. So feel free to hit us in the inbox, or if you got my phone number or our phone numbers, make sure you call. We may not be able to answer the call right away, but we'll definitely get back to you. Absolutely. As elders, we take that responsibility very, very seriously.
I take it very seriously. And because one of the things that I had started doing probably about 5-6 years ago was exchanging numbers, because we don't know how long this thing called social media is going to last.
Exactly.
And so we need to have other means of communication where we can reach out to folks. Right. And so, I'm more than willing to talk to people. I don't just put my phone number on a dialogue, but if you inbox me and say you really have something that you need me to discuss or help you with, sure, I'll give you my number and you can call me. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Absolutely. All right, my brother. It's been a pleasure, man. And
it always is. It always is.
Always is. And don't forget, family. What you say, bro?
Looking at these books, and see, I got 3 of them. I got the new edition.
Got the new revised edition.
Yeah, revised. I got these old ones. So I just got them sitting here. Together.
Yeah, don't forget now. We are going to make the older book available to anybody who wants them.
I've been telling people $20.
Yeah, we $20, or even if you if you have a real close relationship with us, we might even give it to you cheaper than that.
Yeah.
But they're going to be very good educational vehicles that they can use in the schoolroom, in the classroom, and things of that nature. So it's still a very valuable tool that we can use.
Absolutely.
All right, my brother.